Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Once again, we've put together a broadcast for you despite some insurmountable odds. Jordan is out there in Oakland, 35 miles from here. We've got some phones hooked up, some cables. We've got call waiting, call forwarding. We've got all kinds of things going on in order to bring you a broadcast tonight. But once again, we're here, and I'm very, very grateful to Jordan Woodworth for all he's done to make this a show tonight. We're going to be going over some things with you, of course, the regularly scheduled segments that we bring to you every week. We also have some sponsors that we'll be talking about. But right now, we'll get down to the starting line, and I'll tell you a little bit more about everything that's going to happen. In the Why Not Try This segment, I'm going to give you a little tip on how to get paint matched professionally. We've also got some other segments going on here tonight that we're going to be talking about, like the Moto Showcase, where we'll be showing you a 1974 Husqvarna CR125 that was sent in by one of our viewers. Also, in the Here's the Problem segment, we're going to be looking at how to remove snapped off bolts, something that's a big problem for a lot of guys. We're going to be addressing that in that segment tonight. In the What's It Worth segment, we'll be taking a look at a 1975 Honda CR125 Elsinore that recently sold on eBay for an absolutely bargain price. In my opinion, we'll be taking a look at that a little bit later on in the show. Just how I see it, I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about why you should keep track and do some good bookkeeping when you're restoring your bike when it comes to buying parts and who you're paying for outside services. Dirty Bike section, Jordan's put together a nice little video tonight. We're going to be taking a look at that a little bit later on. You'll see Jordan himself on camera and talking about some of his experiences with his makeup. Trivia contest, it's the first Wednesday of the month, April 1st. So what does that mean? It means we're giving away the Keith Geisner book, Finding Number 49. I've got a real interesting trivia for you tonight, something that you're not going to expect, and you're all going to be a little bit surprised when you find out the answer. In fact, you'll be surprised when you hear the question. So stay tuned. We'll give you a phone number later on. You can call in, get an opportunity to win that book by Keith Geisner, Finding Number 49. Hey, if you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and obviously you are, just take a moment to hit that share button. Tell some of your friends about it. Some of your other friends on Facebook, maybe you can bring them over here. We can grow the audience some and make a more interesting show for everybody. So if you'll just take a moment, hit the share button. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to hit that share button, get a couple more people to come over and watch the show with us. Oh, we're on YouTube now too. So it's Vmxq&A live. So you can go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. I've been sharing some things on Facebook about this. We're at about 120 subscribers right now, and we just got started with this, really. What you need to do is get some of your friends to subscribe to the Vmxq&A channel. Once you do that, we'll be able to go live on YouTube as well. But we need 1,000 people to do that. We're over 100 right now. If you could subscribe, tell some of your friends about that. Once we get over 1,000, it's going to help in a lot of ways. Number one, it's going to get more people watching the show. Number two, it's going to get more sponsors interested in becoming involved in the show. People like Amsoil, people like Vmxq, people like FastGuyStuff.com and Preston Petty Products. So take some time after the show, go over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel, Vmxq&A Live. And as I just mentioned, some of our sponsors, Vmxq, Preston Petty Products, FastGuyStuff.com, Metro Racing. You know what? I want to take just a moment to say something here. With everybody stuck at home right now, I know a lot of my friends out there are working on bikes. What I'd like you to do, if possible, is to go over there to Vmxq, Preston Petty, Amsoil, order some stuff from them, guys. A lot of them are going through a tough time, just like we all are. Vmxq, I don't know because there's a big mail order there, but somebody like Amsoil, I was speaking to Russell Waters the other day. He's got a very, very wide range of people. In other words, his, what is it called? His territory for selling oil in his area of North Carolina. It's very, very big. A lot of the companies that he has done business with has shut down. Right now, Amsoil, Russell Waters, they would really appreciate. Just go down there, buy a quart of oil, buy some of the lubricants they sell, or some of the other things I've spoken about on this show in the past couple of weeks. everybody would appreciate every buck you can spend right now, whether it's Metro, Vmxq, Preston Petty Products, or of course, Amsoil. Go to their websites, pay them a visit, try and spend a buck or two there with those guys. We would appreciate it, and I'm sure they would too. Next time, try this. This is a segment of the show where I tell you a little bit about a little shortcut you can use or some good advice. And right now, tonight, I want to talk about paint matching. Right here, you can see where there's a nice set of red plastic for a 1979 Honda Elsinore. Right next to it, which looks like a little phone, it's not. It's a scanner. What you can do the next time you want to make sure your metal tank and your frame match that beautiful plastic you bought. Or if maybe you bought some, let's say you bought some yellow plastic from vintage Suzuki and you want to make sure your tank matches. You have a metal tank bike and you want to make sure that tank matches. You want to go down to an auto body supplier that's in your area, a professional auto body supplier, somebody that supplies paint to body shops in your area. What they're going to do is they're going to take a profit of the piece of plastic that you have. What does that mean? They're going to scan it, just like a little scanner that you see in a supermarket. They run it over that piece of plastic, and that scanner reports back and tells them exactly what the mixture is to get the exact color paint that's on that plastic or your old metal tank if it's in good condition. You can see it right there. There's a little formula that pops up. And I think what they do is they mix it in grams. They don't do it in ounces with a little eyedropper thing. They mix it in grams, and you're going to get an exact match to the plastic that you're putting on your bike when you want the tank to match. One of the experiences I've had with it was Vmxq plastic. They sell some great plastic out in Angel Fire, New Mexico. Beautiful Honda stuff, beautiful Mako stuff. The thing is, the Honda stuff and their Mako stuff, pretty much about the same color red. And they're not an exact match to the Honda or the Mako. Real nice stuff. But if you're doing a nice show quality or even just a race quality bike, but you want everything to match, you want to get down to an auto body supplier and have them take a profit of a nice clean piece of plastic that you want to use to match your bike. If you have an NOS, have him match that. He can give you the paint back with an exact match. If you're using reproduction plastic, which are sometimes not exact, have him take a profit of that. You'll get paint back mixed up, and that will match your plastic perfectly. So next time, why don't you try that? In the Moto Showcase tonight, sponsored by, of course, FastGuyStuff.com, some of the greatest stickers in the business, we've got Tony Divino, who sent us in another bike. Tony sent us in a bike about a month ago. It was a Husqvarna also, and it was a beautiful piece, and I told him in the future, if you want to send us another one, please do that. So in the past week, Tony sent me an email of this beautiful 1974 Husqvarna CR125, and I'm going to read to you some of the details about it while Jordan forwards some of the slides. The gas tank was restored by John Lefevre at Vintage Husqvarna. He's got Metzler tires on there, front and back. The fenders are from Vintage Husqvarna. Tony installed them himself. Getting schooled by me, he says. So I gave him some tips on how to get those fenders on there, and I hope they came out nice and straight for you, Tony. I'm sure they did. This plating was done by Save-On Plating. The rear sprocket was dipped in a yellow solution for 20 seconds to give it the gold tint. What Tony's talking about is the yellow zinc. Depending how long you dip some things in a colored zinc, like yellow, sometimes black, sometimes green, it'll come out a different shade. Tony really did his research on this, had that sprocket dipped just the amount of time to come out the right shade of yellow. The engine work was done by Northeast Husky, Icon, Blaine Eldridge. Gas cap, grips, rear shock shrouds, petcock, and cables are all from Speed and Sport. I'm sure he's talking about the Speed and Sport that's up here in Sacramento, Pennsylvania, not the one, Sacramento, California, not the one in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Seat cover and engine parts were from Dave Pratt. The wheels were done by Tom McAllister of Full Circle Racing. I'd love to speak to Tom McAllister sometime in the future. He does a beautiful job, and I know he's got a lot of wheels on a lot of bikes that a lot of guys are restoring and racing. I'd like to speak to Tom McAllister. I'm going to be sending him a message in the near future. All the aluminum finish and painting was done in-house by Tony Divino himself. Tony, I want to thank you for sending in this beautiful 1974 Husqvarna CR125. You've done a beautiful job with it. It was a pleasure to have it on the show. For you sending the bike in, I'm going to get you out another sticker pack from FastGuyStuff.com. And right now I want to thank Sean Gomes and everybody over there at Fast Guy Stuff for supporting Vintage Motocross Q&A. Dirty Bikes, Jordan has put together a nice little video for us here. I think you're going to really, really like this. I saw it for the first time today. And Jordan, why don't you roll that, and we'll get a look at what's happening there with you and your Mako.
My name's Jordan Woodworth and I live in Oakland, California. This is a 1978 Mako 440. My first motorcycle ever was a 78 Mako 250. I bought this bike almost just to have some spare parts, but I ended up having to get it going because my 250 blew up. It's got a Mikuni carb, it's got work shocks, it's got new springs up front that I got from No Lean. It's got an 81 swing arm on it. It's got a depth silencer. It's got a Mako only pipe. Came with the billet ignition cover, the nice new pegs. Pacific powder coating did the hubs for me. Full circle racing rims. I GoPro all my races. One on my helmet, and this one I can aim to the side or backwards. Put a lot of miles on this one. Last year I was racing at OSSRG as much as I could down at Glen Helen. Virginia City Grand Prix, did the Bushy Ranch, cross country armor race. The Dave Coupe GP last year.
There is the 24 of Woodworth on that cylinder and crankshaft. MotoWorks Mako.
I did the Desert 100 up in Washington. I hadn't really figured out the starting ritual before the race yet, and I was having Kickstarter problems, which complicated things. Ended up being just a clutch basket problem, but before the race I couldn't get it started, so I had to start late.
All right, you can go.
And the Kickstarter was acting all crazy, so I just crossed my fingers and rode off into the desert hoping I wouldn't have to start it again. But it all worked out and I finished 9th place in the vintage class. The only failure in the race was the silencer fell off about 100 yards from the finish. Some guy brought it to me and I asked how he found me, and he said he just followed the sound.
Hey! Hey! How'd you find us? The noise?
It fell off right there at the pit, so we listened for you.
Nothing too special about it, but it is a Mako, so I think that's enough.
Jordan Woodworth, I want to thank you for sending in that video. Actually, you didn't have to send it in. You set the whole thing up from your house out in Oakland. It was a great little video. I enjoyed it very, very much. Also, and I've said this to Jordan before, you know, he just got into vintage just a couple of years ago, and his first bike was a Mako 250 and a Mako 440. Not a lot of guys get involved with Makos who haven't been involved in vintage motocross before. Usually, new guy comes in, he wants something, he wants a Japanese bike, maybe, you know, a 1980, 81, 82. But Jordan jumped right in there, got into the Makos, and as you can see, he's gotten it all torn down. He knows how to operate on the clutch. Jordan, great job on the video, and thanks for all you do here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. What do we got coming up next? And here's the problem segment. This is where we get some questions sent in to us every week by some of the viewers, and I do my best to do a little research on it and give them some great advice. First question up tonight, I believe, comes from Robert Cure. What's the best method for removing oxidation from magnesium, like from this backing plate? And Robert's got a picture of it right here. Robert, what I would recommend, okay, here's what I wouldn't recommend. Don't use steel wool, okay, because they're dissimilar metals. The steel and the magnesium, they're not a real great match when you're trying to rub off that oxidation. What I would recommend is that you get it off, and you go down to your hardware store and get some red Scotch-Brite pad. A red Scotch-Brite pad, you can really get in all the crevices that are in that backing plate, and you can get it pretty clean. Now, that's me advising you on how to do it at home with no budget. Now, I don't know if you have the opportunity or the ability to have, or you have access to it, but of course, a vapor hone, vapor blasting cabinet would really be the best way to go. It'll really draw out all those impurities in the magnesium, make it all nice and clean, and you can put it back on the bike. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've also had luck, and you can see it right here. Here's a Mako hub right here, magnesium from a bike I restored. As you can see, it got black. It wasn't quite oxidized yet, but it got pretty well discolored. You can see it there in the picture on the left. In the picture on the right, where it looks beautiful, it's got a nice little sheen to it. I did that in a bead blasting cabinet with AAA glass bead, low pressure. So you can get it just as clean as I got it with glass bead if you have a bead blasting cabinet. If you don't have a vapor hone, if you do have a vapor hone and you know someone that has one, you can get them down there. It looks a little more natural when you're done. Or if you're on a budget and you can't really get out to see anybody who has any of that equipment right now, you can go get a little Scotch-Brite pad and you can clean it all up with that. I also read Now, I don't have pictures of it, but just hear me out for a second. I also read where someone said that with a very, very coarse nylon brush and some soft scrub like you use in the bathroom on porcelain, you could put it under the sink with the nylon brush, some soft scrub, and you could really get in there with hot water, and it does a really, really great job of cutting the oxidation. I haven't tried it. I only read about it. I can only tell you that I know for sure vapor honing works. AAA glass bead with low air pressure in a blasting cabinet will get you a real nice result too. Robert, thanks for sending in the question. I think, in fact, you sent in 2 questions. I think the next one's coming up from you as well. How can I extract a snapped off bolt from a Mako fork leg? We've all been there. You over tighten something, or you're trying to get something out that's been rusted in there or seized in for quite some time, and it's very, very difficult. And next thing you know, it snaps off. Here's a picture of Robert Curet's dilemma right here. It's in the bottom of that fork leg from that Mako. It's the pinch clamp on the bottom that holds the axle steady. And as you can see in the picture there, it snapped off down below where the pinch is in the fork leg. Jordan? Oh no, let's stay right here. I'm sorry. What you want to do is you want to make sure you can find the center of that snapped off bolt. You're lucky, Robert, because it looks like when it sheared off, it was nice and flat. A lot of times a bolt will snap and it's all jagged, and it's very, very difficult to find the center and drill it. What you're going to want to use is the first thing you see on top of the page here in the slides. It looks like this. It's a spring-loaded prick punch. And if mine was working, it's got a spring in it, and you push it down just like that, and it's going to leave a nice mark right in the middle of that bolt where it snapped off. You have to be extremely careful to make sure you do it right in the center, because this thing is going to leave a little divot right there in the center of that bolt, because then you're going to go on to drill it. And you're going to use small drills to begin with. You're going to make a little pilot hole. Right here, you could see on the slide to the left where someone has left that mark. In fact, on theirs, it looks like it's off a little bit. You want to make sure you get it right in the center. So you're going to do that, then you're going to drill a tiny pilot hole. In this other picture here to the right, when I first got it, I thought I was putting in, or before now looking at it, I thought it was a picture of an easy out. It looks like it's a left-handed drill bit is what it is. Now, you could try a left-handed drill bit, but once again, not everybody's got a left-handed drill bit sitting at home. So you're going to drill it out with a pilot drill, and you're going to make it a little bit bigger each time until you get it. Jordan, go back a slide for a second, if you can hear me. Okay, on the bottom of the screen, you can see those easy out tools right there. So you're going to want to read the instructions when you get your set of easy outs. Okay, so if you have let's say a bolt in there with an 8mm shank, you're going to want to look at the guide they give you that tells you if that bolt is snapped off, you're going to want to use this size easy out. When using this size easy out, use this size drill. You could use a little smaller drill at first because you're working in such a tight space, Robert. You're going to want to make sure you use the spring-loaded center punch. Make sure you get to the center. Drill a little tiny hole in there. Be careful. Make sure your drill is straight when you're doing it. It's another mistake people make. Not only getting it in the center, but you want to make sure that drill is straight when you're getting it in there. There's another word of caution I'm going to give you, especially in this situation. That bolt is snapped off in your lower fork. You don't want to go past that bolt into the fork leg itself. Maybe go right past it, drill through the fork leg, and you're going to have another problem. So you want to be careful about, maybe you can measure it, okay? Not go too deep with that drill on your pilot, not go too deep with the next drill up till you get to the right size that you're going to get your easy out in. Read the instructions on the size of the easy out, very, very important. Because if you drill too small, the easy out's not going to grab. It's going to go in the hole, but it's not going to grab that well. You make it too big, it's not going to get much of a grip when you make it too big either. You got to be very, very careful, taking it step by step, making sure your drill is straight, making sure you use the right size easy out to get it out. Also, I would recommend when you have everything all square and set up and you know you've got a good bite on that bolt, take a little bottle of MAP gas, a little torch, and heat that bolt up, because that's probably where your problem got started from the beginning. Heat that bolt up a bit. Yeah, you're going to lose the paint in the fork leg. Don't worry about it. Heat that bolt up a little bit before you try and back it out with the easy out. Robert, thank you very much for the question. Hope I was able to shed some light on the subject for you right there. Jim Bjorklund, I have a 1984 CR500 Honda. Is this compression release stock on the bike? No, it's not. It's not. Whoever did this job on your bike, Jim, did a real nice job on it. It looks like they kind of chamfered the fins on the cylinder head, and it looks like they did a really nice job there. But in answer to your question, no, a 1984 Honda CR500 does not have a compression release. Thanks for the question. There's a good one, a good picture right there of a CR500. It's the same angle that you sent me from your bike, and as you can see, it doesn't have a compression release on it. Jeff Blackwood, can you tell me where I can find stickers like this for the rear fender of my 1974 CR125 Elsinore? And in the next slide, you'll see that it's a warning sticker on the back. Jeff's picture is over there to the left. The sticker's a little bit worn out, seen better days. And in the one on the right is one that I replaced on a CR125 that I recently restored. There are two places you can get these stickers. The first one I would recommend is Vmxq or Vmxq. I spoke to Dan. He calls it Remix. Some people call it Vmxq. Either way, Dan and Vmxq, they've got a lot of stuff down there. I've bought the stickers for my my restorations from Dan from Vmxq, but they've got some other stuff down there. They're the PVL dealer now. They've got a lot of other cool stuff down there. I bought 4 caps from them in the past. So give Remx or Vmxq a shout when you want that warning sticker for the back of your CR125. Fast Guy Stuff might have them too. I had to mention Fast Guy Stuff because he's one of our sponsors. So Fast Guy Stuff might have them too, and you might want to check with them. But I know Dan from Vmxq definitely has them. Thanks for the question. Next up, this is something I found on Facebook this week. And what happened was, I don't know if you guys do this, but I'm on my phone going over Facebook. Sometimes I see some things, I don't want to forget about it. So I take a screenshot, okay? I saw this in, I think it was in IT 200 or some kind of Yamaha group, and I thought it was very interesting. When I snapped the picture, I didn't see who actually asked the question, but I did remember the answers. Are these little dimples normal on an 86 IT 200 pipe? Why are they there? And if you look at the slide carefully, you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, I think I see 6 of those little dimples in that pipe. What they're actually there for on an IT 200, and probably on some of your other IT models as well, there's an internal baffle in that pipe. At that point of where that pipe is going up, it's welded in there. It's spot welded in there. So if you see those little dimples on your pipe for your IT, or maybe on some other bikes too, I don't know, it means there's a baffle behind it. Something to keep in mind, because maybe something's loose in your pipe. When you're taking the bike apart, you're restoring it, you're working on it. Next thing you know, you hear something rattling around, you can't figure out what it might be. Maybe after all the time and all the years, maybe there's some rust that got in there, or just the heat in general, wear and tear. Maybe that baffle came loose and that's what you got bouncing around inside that pipe. You see those dimples. I'd love to give credit to the guy who asked the question, but I don't know who he is. I just thought it'd be something I could share with you guys. In the What's Your Worth segment, I'm going to be taking a look at a 1975 Honda CR125 Elsinore that recently sold on eBay. This bike, and if Jordan goes through the slides, we'll see it, was exceptionally original. It had the original tires, the original grips were on the bike, very minimal amount of paint was worn off of the engine, just about no paint was worn off of the frame. See a little paint worn off there on the ignition cover, which was in one piece. The kickstand was in place, the tires were original, the chain, the shocks, everything about this bike looked really, really nice. Here's a good shot of the front number plate, which was correct, as well as the cables, the handlebars, the controls. The seller did mention, I mean, look at the condition of these wheels. Obviously, they've never had a tire iron on them. I don't see any of the clear being worn off of the lower fork leg or any gouges on it, any nicks in it from any kind of racing. Obviously, the bike has never really seen a racetrack. The paint, the seat cover, everything looked real nice on it. The bike sold for $4,500, and I thought this was an absolutely great deal for an original 75 CR125. Oh, I did mention something earlier. The seller did say that one of the original number plates, the side number plates, was broken. He had it, it was cracked clean in half. He did replace it with an aftermarket plate, but he had the original one and it went with the bike. The pipe was in great condition. Everything looked phenomenal on this bike. And for $4,500, I thought it was a screaming deal. My thoughts on 1975 Honda CR 125s are this. If this were a 74 125 in this condition, it would have easily cleared twice that amount. I think the bike would have went for $9,000 all day if it was a 1974 in this condition. My feelings, how I look at it sometimes is the 1975 CR is like the 1964 Corvette. The 1963, it was a new body style. It was a split window. It was fuel injected. It had a lot of things going on, mostly that new Stingray design. So after all these years, everybody's after that 1963 and they're paying big coin for them. The same thing with the 74 Honda Elsinore. You know, the 75 is kind of the, I don't want to call it redheaded stepchild because it's not that, but it is red. Anyway, it's kind of the bike that's, you know, it's hasn't really come into its own yet because the original and the first year Elsinore always seems to outshine it wherever it goes, whether it's at a race, at a show, or at an auction. But at $4,500 for this 1975 Honda CR 125, I thought that was an absolutely great deal, especially considering how original the bike was. Trivia, this is it. You want to get another telephone, you want to get your wife's phone, you want to get somebody's phone. Because the trivia tonight is for the Keith Geisner book, Finding Number 49. I love this book. It's one of those things you pick up every once in a while. Even though I've read it a couple of times, you go back and you look at pictures and you see all the wonderful things that Keith went out of his way to go all over the country to find when he was doing all the research on this bike. Now, Jordan tries to trick me here sometimes. He almost made me give away a bike one week. Is it right? Okay. First call wins the book. One week he had the first caller wins the bike. I got to watch him. Anyway, here's the question. Jordan, in this picture right here, you see a picture of Lucille Ball. It's a very, very famous episode of the I Love Lucy series where she's out and they go on some trip and she's in a big tank jumping on a bunch of grapes with another woman. Now you're probably saying, Joe, have you lost your mind? What does this have to do with vintage motocross? Well, that woman on the right of Lucy is the mother of well, let's put it this way. Think about the prize that you're trying to win. Think about the fact that it's trivia. And think about the years that this may have been. And that woman right there is somebody in motocross. It's his mom. And she was in that series, on that show, just at one time. Call in if you can tell me who it is. Area code 925-234-8181. That's 925-234-8181. Who's that woman to the right of Lucille Ball in the I Love Lucy episode? It's somebody's mom from motocross. It's got something to do with this book. Who is it? Jordan, let's go to the spotlight while we're waiting for somebody to call in. The product spotlight this week is, of course, once again, Preston Petty Products. We are an authorized dealer for Preston Petty. You can go on their website and order directly from them. You can call me. You can get a fender, a mud flap, a set of grips, a headlight, whatever they sell at the Preston Petty website. You can get it from me or directly from the Preston Petty website. This week, we don't have a special. Paul Stannard's been very, very busy. He's got another company. It's called Fortuna Sausage Company. He's so busy selling sausage right now with the lockdown and people not want to go out of their house to buy things that he's been selling so much sausage, he hasn't really had time to send me the special this week. Actually, he kind of did. I told him not to worry about it. He's busy with other things. But Preston Petty Products, something we all grew up with if you're around my age. And it's something that you want on your bike, on your trail bike, the integrated number plates, the headlights, the Preston Petty fenders, the mutter fronts. Hey, look, it's something that we all wanted. And now as we're restoring bikes and making trail bikes and doing some really cool stuff as we're older, you can always go over to Preston Petty Products, get what you wanted as a kid. I understand they're also putting a deal together for some green fenders for Kawasaki's. I don't know when that's coming up or if that's kind of on delay temporarily due to this virus situation. But Preston Petty Products, can't beat them. Been around forever. It's a staple. It's a staple with all of us when it comes to vintage dirt bikes. Go over to PrestonPetty.com. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. They have a website. Go order some products, especially right now. Be in your home. Maybe you could spend a little money with some of our sponsors. I'm not hearing Susie come through the door with the answer to the trivia contest, and I'm very, very surprised. I thought somebody would jump right in there on that with who that is. Think about the book, guys. Think about the book, what the book's about, who might be in the book, and you might come up with the answer. to who's that woman? She's somebody's mom. Whose mom is she? Dancing with, Stamping on the Grapes with Lucille Ball. Tell me. Right now, we're going to go to a commercial break from Vmxq.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vmxq knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vmxq. Keep the ride going.
There it is, Vmxq.com. Susie, we don't have an answer yet? We don't have an answer yet on the trivia contest. We're going to go to the Just How I See It segment of the show. Something I really think that, here's what I would advise you do. We're all restoring bikes. We're doing different things, making trail bikes, taking time to restore bikes we always wanted. I would recommend that you really, really become a little bit of a bookkeeper when you're restoring bikes. It's a good idea because when you go to sell them, you want to show somebody exactly what's been invested in the bike. I can tell you right now from experience, anybody else who's probably restored a bike recently could tell you the same thing. Before you know it, you'll be at $3,500 to $4,000 in parts and outside services on that bike. A lot of guys will say, you know what? I don't know what I want to spend on it. I don't care to know what I spend on the bike. Well, it'd be a good idea if you did, because the time might come where you want to sell it. It's a show bike, and you want to keep track of how much you spent on that bike. Besides, let's just say, well, things take a turn for the worse. You still want to know how much was invested in that bike when somebody comes to buy it, because when somebody comes to buy it, they're always going to want to negotiate with you. It's never going to be cheap enough for some people. So I would advise you do that. Also, if you have more than one bike, maybe you have 3 or 4, you might want to see what you have invested in those bikes over the years, the time you've put into it, and especially the money. And you'll see that maybe you purchased some parts that maybe from 2 years ago, or if you start taking notes now and start making a nice list of what you spent on a bike, you'll be surprised 2 or 3 years from now when you take a look at that and you see what parts may be going for at that point, how much you really saved or how much things have increased. I think it's a really, really great idea to have a paper trail on all your restorations or even on your race bikes to know where that money was spent, how much you had involved in it. That's just how I see it. Jordan? I think, well, I see she's coming in through the door.
I do.
We've got somebody.
Yeah.
We'll get to the announcements in a minute.
All right.
Jordan, get ready because I think the next slide is going to be really interesting when people see it. Hi, this is Joe. You're on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Who am I speaking to?
Uncle Nick, I love what you're doing. Keep doing it.
Uncle Nick. All right, Uncle Nick. You know, I like you, Uncle Nick, because I tell you, you remind me of a New York guy. It's like Uncle Nick. He doesn't want to give his last name. He's on the phone. Yeah, I like that. I miss those days. Uncle Nick, tell me, in that picture of Lucy Ball Arnez, who's standing next to her? Whose mom is that smashing those grapes?
Now I got to do 2 quiz questions?
No, that's it. Who's standing next to Lucille Ball smashing the grapes?
Oh, my goodness.
No, you called in saying that you knew the answer and you wouldn't, you know, Susie said you know the answer. Whose mom is it?
Oh,
Nick, you already gave the answer to Susie. Who did you say it was?
Marty Tripe's mom. How did that go down?
Yes, that's it. That's it. It's Marty Tripe's mom next to Lucy. Nick, I'm going to give the phone back to Susie. She's going to get your address, and we're going to get you a copy of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thanks, Uncle Nick. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to get you a copy of Finding Number 49. I don't have a book yet. Hang on, Nick. Thanks, Susie.
Oh, my goodness.
And there you see it. You saw that slide. I talked to Mike Tripes this afternoon about that. And I thought it would be an interesting trivia contest for tonight's show. And if you kind of got the hint, I said it's got something to do with the book, somebody in the book. So yeah, back in that episode of I Love Lucy, from what I understand, it's Mrs. Tripes. So I want to thank Nick for calling in and make it interesting, I'll tell you. He knew the answer, then he didn't know the answer. Kind of confusing, but we got to the bottom of it. And there he is, Marty Tripes to the left, Mama Tripes, and Lucille Ball. Let's get on to the announcements. VMX, perhaps the greatest magazine ever invented, especially after vintage became so cool in the late 90s and early 2000. Now, just like everybody else who's in business, VMX, the subscriptions are drying up a little bit. So Ken Smith has put out an amazing product for almost 20 years now that I know of. The magazine is great. Nothing even compares. He's brought a lot of bikes into the spotlight and has showcased a lot of great work that's been performed on restorations by guys like yourself. Also, there's some great coverage in there every year, whether it's Mid-Ohio or the races that have been coming up from all over the country. I want to plead with you, please go over to VMX, subscribe to their magazine, get a yearly subscription. And I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. I don't know how we're going to keep track of it, but we're going to try. If 10 people go over to VMX in the next week, 10 of you, go over there, get a subscription to VMX. I will give away a subscription here on the show next Wednesday. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, but one way or the other, I will give away a subscription to VMX. I'm going to get one, of course, myself. I'd like 10 other guys to go out there. Tell Ken you saw it on Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abadi. That's why you're ordering a subscription. And if Ken tells me we got 10 people that ordered some magazines, we're going to figure out a way to get one free to someone who's watching the show. I think it's a pretty good deal. So go over there, VMX, get yourself a subscription to one of the best motocross, especially vintage motocross publications in the world. Thanks, Ken, for all you do. There's a picture of Ken and Joe Robert. I'm sorry, I couldn't look down to see it. It doesn't really matter. You know it's Ken and you know it's Joe Robert. FastGuyStuff.com still supplying stickers to us every week for the Moto Showcase. When you get a moment, go over there to FastGuyStuff.com. Check out some of their stickers and some of the other cool stuff they have on their website. Sean Gomes, I'm running out of Vintage Motocross Q&A giveaway sticker packs. So when you get a minute, either drop me an email, send me a text, or give me a call. Let me know when you can make a few more for me. I appreciate all you do. FastGuyStuff.com. We're still looking for sponsorship opportunities. Right now, I'm not going to go too far into it because we all know everybody's on lockdown due to the coronavirus. But in the next coming weeks, we'll get back on this again. Some of you people want to get some opportunities to advertise here on the show. We've got a nice following right now. As I've mentioned before, we get about over 5 or 6 days after the show is live, we get about 20,000 viewers. Especially now, it's going to grow even a little bit more because we're on YouTube. And right now, and we just got started with that, we've got 100 subscribers on YouTube. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers, and that's going to probably be over the next couple of weeks, once we do that and we hit YouTube, there's going to be a big surge in the viewership for the show. It's going to be a great opportunity for people who want to advertise because they'll not only be able to see it here on Facebook every week, but it'll be on YouTube. We have videos up on YouTube right now. We have about 25 episodes, at least 25 episodes of Vintage Motocross Q&A from the past 6 or 8 months, however long Jordan and I have been doing it. And I've got a couple of other ones on there too before Jordan and I hooked up with some episodes that I made on my own. Jordan? That's it for tonight. I want to thank you all for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A here on Facebook. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Till next week, be safe, stay indoors, listen to what's going on, and let's all just hope this ends sooner than later. Have a good night.